And then up here, we can Seco,
Here.
Heckman,
Present.
Hopkins,
Here. Also here.
Water,
So you're here.
Stimson, Stuckey, and Willie.
Here.
All right. So looks like we're starting off with a presentation of Red, White, and Blue. Right off the bat.
Right off the bat. That's good. Good evening. I'm Jay Nelson, Chief Executive Officer and Fire Marshal for Red, White, and Blue Fire, and Interim Fire Marshal for Summit Fire and EMS. So I'm coming this evening to discuss with you the Fire Code proposed amendments and adoption, and answer any questions that you have on that, and then give you a little bit of a update on the fire district, where we're at with summer wildfire preparedness and our strategic plan. Sound good? All right. So I believe you've been distributed the code amendments to the 2024 International Fire Code. Most of those amendments apply to commercial buildings and not residential. There's a few things that apply to residential commercial buildings. So places like Blue River condos within the town, or the multifamily and businesses within the town of Breckenridge. Notice that the sprinkler requirement has reduced from 6,000 to 4,500. I think I should start out by saying we've actually amended what is in the residential code to increase the sprinkler requirement, which sits at 0. So if you adopted the International Residential Code as it sits today, it would say that every home has to be sprinkled. In the past, the district had that at 6,000 square feet. Undergoing our last ISO audit, which happened last winter, there was a lot of questions around our firefighter staffing and compliance with NFPA 1710. So 1710 outlines proper staffing for career fire departments. And when we started doing analysis through that, we found that the 6,000 square foot number is not achievable with the number of firefighters that we have across this county, let alone within the fire district. So we looked at and started working with ISO and understanding how our deployment, what that maximum square footage is. And that square range from the 6,000 down to the 4,500 square feet is staffing levels of the fire districts in the county, and more pressure through the insurance industry on following NFPA standards on career fire department deployment of personnel. So that is where that number comes from. Within the town of Blue River, a couple things. Timber Creek Estates actually has a platted sprinkler requirement at 3,600 square feet. So any home over 3,600 square feet automatically requires a sprinkler system. Rio Azul, the homes along Rio Azul, every home on that requires a sprinkler system. And in some of the discussions we've had on the early development of the land behind Skier's Edge, all of those homes would be required to have sprinklers. And that's due to lack of water supply and not meeting that municipal water supply requirement. So that's what drives that. So I would entertain any questions that you all may have regarding those code amendments or the changes.
Questions? No.
Making it easy on me.
Doesn't mean we don't like it.
I understand. Yeah, it's a hard year. There's a lot of code changes with the energy code, the electrical code, all of those things have kind of dominoed and increasing in working on the pathways. And there's 3 pathways for looking at additions, remodels, and then creating kind of separation for ADUs as well. So ADU square footage doesn't count into that square footage to try to help with the housing issues. So,
I have a question, Jay. So
Yes.
it's on enforcement, code enforcement.
yes,
So we're being asked to put this into an ordinance on our end, right?
yes.
And why is that again? Are you not able to enforce the code?
So we are able to enforce the code as long as the municipalities have also adopted the code. So we have to go to all the municipalities and have them adopt the same code amendments for us to enforce those. So the fire district has adopted the fire code, the town of Breck has adopted the fire code, and the county is set to adopt the fire code on the 24th. And so we'll be able to enforce it. Well, right now we can only enforce it in the town of Breck. And so if you don't adopt any kind of ordinance, then it reverts back to the old code.
Okay.
So we would only be able to enforce the 2018 code that's been adopted by the town of
6,000 square.
with the 6,000 square feet. However, with that said, for disaster recovery dollars. That we're starting to follow to see how those are going to roll out.
Got some questions, Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
Obviously, you probably understand that some of the hesitation on behalf of the board is surrounding the perception that the new requirements would come across as onerous and expensive
Mhm.
to developers, right? And incumbent upon the town to enforce those rules through planning and zoning. It's been spoken about a couple of times. Obviously, the impact of this is public safety, right? The ability for you and your crews to protect us in the event of a wildfire. There's also been some references to impacts to insurability. I think you said that.
Yes.
But they've only been very vague references described with like a maybe or a could. Can you color that in for me at all, like through your experience or through data or through some supporting examples about the actual impacts to insurability or insurance rates in our district with the impact of this adoption?
Yeah. So I think the best example of this is kind of applying that wildfire mindset in the mitigation. Matt Benedict, who was our division chief of wildland, he navigates this almost weekly where insurance agencies are dropping homeowners for lack of defensible space. We're seeing that insurance companies are starting to also drop commercial buildings first for not having fire sprinklers and putting that onus of millions of dollars back onto these homeowners associations to either sprinkler it or find new insurance. So it starts, typically we see things start at the commercial end and it starts to affect residential. And I think we're going to start seeing it more and more within the state as insurance numbers are going up. So that liability that the insurance companies are carrying is going up. They're going to find ways to funnel out that liability as much as they can. And that's going to be looking at home fire sprinklers, looking at modern day code adoption, and looking at wildfire defensible space.
Can you give me a sense, just like a number? Like say maybe how many reports, anecdotal or official, that you had in the last maybe like year about folks who have come to the district acknowledging that maybe their current insurance carriers decided to drop them for these reasons? Just like is it a dozen?
I would say in total within our jurisdiction, we've probably had 50 to 60 insurance company or homeowners dropped from their insurance that we know about that have come to the district looking for assistance in navigating it.
Any other questions? Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Jay.
No worries. Wildfire preparedness. So This year is an exceptionally special year, I would say. But it doesn't change how we start to approach things. We are fully staffed. We are ready for anything that happens. What we're really looking at is how do we message? How do we get better messaging out? And that's what we're working on right now, tying in with Summit County and utilizing their PIO, Adrian, to try to help get the message out, and really trying to solidify and putting together one stop shopping, if you will, or one place where wildfire information is in one hosted website. So that's going on in the background. We, as a district, are really working on how do we ensure that our school kids understand that they can't go off and have their bonfires this summer, that it's very dry out there, that our guests understand that they can't have that fire when they're camping, and that our residents are aware and understand what's going on as well. And so we are working with the Restaurant Association, Breck Tourism, and boards. So Town of Breck, county commissioners, and hopefully with you all as well, on getting that message out, having a consistent message, and being ready for wildfire, being prepared to evacuate. And it's starting. I mean, we're seeing the grasses start to poke up through the snow. And so a lot of that messaging is going to be around that pre-green up of ensuring that people are ready for that, getting rid of the old dead grasses, those things around their homes, up through green up, and then carrying that message into the fall of getting ready for the winter, and being prepared and not losing sight of the hazard that could still be there. So more will be coming out. Definitely, we'll get in touch with the town manager and ensure that those messages are getting out, that messaging is getting out, and you are all involved in that. And then lastly is our strategic plan. We're very pleased to start working on our next 5 years for our strategic plan for the organization. Thanks to Trustee Slaughter for sitting with us, enduring us for a few hours, and providing some very valuable input. So we brought in a third party to help us through the strategic planning process. That involved external stakeholder meetings, internal stakeholder surveys, and then internal stakeholder group that worked for 2 days, processing the feedback from our external stakeholders, the internal stakeholder survey, and coming up with our future goals. So the first goal that we are focusing on is our ethos of trust. That's going to be working on accountability and ownership, organizational culture, values, and mentorship, officer leadership, and management development. And so what this is really geared towards is, I've been with the district for, well, officially, we won't count those years Barry, but I've been with the district since 2002 officially. So I'm going on 25 years in nearing my retirement level with the district. So we've got to have that succession planning. We've got to be building trust within each other. And so it's how do we leave the organization in good hands when we retire and transition out. So that's really what that goal is geared towards, is being accountable to the community, and leaving the organization in a good place when we transition out. The next goal is whole community. And this is really our community risk reduction efforts, and expanding our community risk reduction efforts to ensure that we're looking at the whole community. So businesses, residents, people that need our aging populations, our younger populations. So the whole spectrum, taking that all in and making sure we're delivering programs that are meeting the community's needs based off of our data on what we're seeing call volume wise, or code violation wise within the community. So trying to adapt things and be more data driven in our delivery. Long-term sustainability is our third, and that's really ensuring that the district is financially sound and that we're not having to go back to the taxpayers to do additional mill levies or bonds or anything like that. So ensuring that we're being good stewards with the money that we're bringing in. And then the last one is personnel development, and that is really geared towards giving our staff what they need to be successful. Training opportunities, officer development opportunities, ensuring they have the tools that they need to be good leaders and provide the best service to the community. So that's the strategic plan moving forward. The next 5 years, we'll also be going through our reaccreditation cycle. And so this all ties into how we look at the organization and build out our goals for the next 5 years. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
The cisterns that we have in Blue River,
Yes,
those are empty in the winter, is that right? Or-
those are not. So we keep those full year round. When those were put in, there's foam and stuff around them to help insulate them. And that's in case we need to use them in the winter. But we go through every spring, and this may be earlier this year, but usually end of May, first part of June, and top all those off, make sure they're still holding water and ready to go.
But those are intended to be used 365.
Those are intended to be used 365. Yep.
Cool. I have a question.
Yeah.
Mr. Nelson, thank you. I appreciate you coming to share with us. This is great, super helpful. I'm sure that many of the residents that live in your district maybe only get the chance to learn about more about what you do, either at events like this or when you respond to a fire at their home, or when they see a request for more funding show up on their ballot, right?
Yeah.
So I want to circle back to that long-term sustainability piece you talked about. Sustainability does include like financial sustainability, so that you can avoid asking the public for more dollars. So I'm just kind of curious what the vision for the district is about how to do that, right? With increases to costs through inflation or a broader service area, right? What kind of like, how are you going to do that? How are you going to continue to serve at the same capacity, right? With increasing external costs without asking taxpayers for more money?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's a conversation we have weekly within our organization. So as part of our budgeting process, we have a 10-year pro forma, and it's kind of gauging where we're going to be at the end of 10 years with our money. What's going into reserves, what's coming out of reserves, and so as we look at that every year budgeting, that really helps us drive what capital projects that we can do, because those are the most expensive things for us are the capital projects. That's buying the fire engine. A ladder truck cost almost $2 million. A fire is about $1.5 million now. And a medic unit or an ambulance is about $500,000. And so we have to gauge what money we're bringing in. We're fully funded off of property tax dollars. And so we gauge that of hitting the board reserve requirement and ensuring we're maintaining that, and then looking at our capital. And it's that fine balance, because we can't have vehicles on the road that are going to break down or buildings that are going to fall down to house firefighters. So it's that fine balance that we work with our board of directors to ensure that we're meeting their requirements for reserve fund, being fiduciarily responsible, and still providing the safe and high quality service that we provide. So, yeah. So it's a constant conversation between our finance officer, myself, my co-chief, Drew Hullen, and our board of directors monthly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions, or if you all want to come do a ride with us. Please contact us. We're more than happy to have you hang out with one of our crews one day.
Can I sit in the engineer seat?
You may not.
Is that around the pump hand?
You could. I'll let you do that. All right. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right. We'll get a presentation on section 16B 4.3 or 30B3 regarding the use of setbacks.
How you all doing?
Yeah.
Good.
So. I appreciate you all taking a look at this tonight. You know, if you recall last month, I asked if the board would be willing to let P and Z go back and take a look at setbacks. There's been some confusion and questions regarding setbacks and how they're measured. In late January, I got a call from an architect asking, you know, how the town applies setbacks. Not about a specific project, but it was. I just didn't get that project's name. I brought it up to P and Z during the February meeting. And at the same meeting, staff, our building official, had some examples for us to talk about. Just to kind of give a quick history, if you recall, in February of 2025, you guys adopted ordinance 2025-02. And then the subsequent adoption of revisions to the code were done in April 2nd of last year. However, you know, as a result of the call from the architect, you know, we took a closer look at it and kind of kicked it around and realized that our building official doesn't interpret setbacks really the way that the code lays them out. What he was doing was interpreting them, they would be front setback would be the more stringent, or so either off of the existing road, which we defined in ordinance 2025-02 as the town road easement, or off of the access road easements. You know, to be clear, P&Z supports Kyle's interpretation. However, I was like, you know, it doesn't say that. And so if we wanted to say that, we should talk with the board. And so here we are. I don't think, you know, there was other issues that we identified. One, that the ordinance wasn't identically copied from the ordinance to the code regarding, I think, the definition of setback, but that's really not the issue at hand. The issue is, you know, whether we want to set them all back the way we've always done it. So the public, you know, me sitting out here, when you guys adopted that ordinance, our assumption was it was done for two reasons. One was to define the town road easement. Here's where the road is, and this is where, you know, we're claiming it, we're defining it, we're establishing it. And two, it was to avoid like a reoccurrence of what we had was two specific instances, one on Gray Squirrel, one on Wilderness. These houses ended up right on top of the road. When those projects were questioned, staff's response was, well, the road doesn't sit where it belongs. And I don't doubt that it doesn't. However, I do doubt that it sits as far away as we were led to believe. So, you know, this ordinance was a result of, you know, obviously you want to claim town road easements, and there's no arguing that. But, you know, the other was to just set them back so we didn't have houses sitting right on the road. Looking at our code, you know, when you look at Wilderness and Gray Squirrel, you know, we haven't had the ability to analyze, you know, and do a postmortem on those projects, either the site plan or surveys, to see how far the house actually exists. But since the town, basically as far back as I could go, the town's code has said we set back from we go road easement, which in most subdivisions is 15 feet for each property, and then you come back 25 feet. Based on 2025-02, we ended up just taking it off the road easement. So without getting into a lot of pictures, and we might have a few around, John might have saved them. Essentially, if you have the town road sitting on your property, you're measuring from it. If it sits across the street on your neighbor's property, you can take your setback off of your property line. The neighbor has to set back off of that road, wherever that might be. So if it's a 25-foot road and it exists 10 feet in, so it's now 35 feet into the property, you then measure another 25 feet. So that house is setting back 60, the other side is setting back just 25 off the property line. So I'm kind of getting off here, but, you know, we reviewed this during our March meeting, and we have some language that you may see in front of you. We have since revised it. And I think Chad may have printed out a copy of that. Essentially, talking with the attorney, which I did last week, he mentioned that we really want to define the difference between what I was referring to as just access easement as to either road access easement or access road easement, because different plats refer to the existing road, or the platted roads differently, okay? So I believe it was an oversight to try to eliminate setting back off of town road easements. And that's how Kyle's been interpreting it. But we don't know what the board really wants. We would prefer it to be the more stringent. And so the language you see in front of you, though not perfect, it hasn't been vetted entirely by Bob. I think it accomplishes the goals, right? So the town is gonna get it where we have the type of code that we had for 60 years, holding people back 40 feet from the center line theoretically, or from property line. But if the road sits in your property, you gotta measure off of that, so you don't have houses sitting theoretically right there, okay? I would be hard pressed to believe that the two projects that kind of triggered this whole red fire helmet panic attack code revision by staff, I doubt they were significant. However, we have no way to know because we have no surveys other than, like, let's say Blue River Road, Spruce Creek Road, anywhere we've done kind of extensive work in recent years. There might be others, but I don't know. We don't have a survey. Our own town code 16B, 430B5, I believe. Sorry, it may be B4. It references the location of the town road easement to be established using Google Earth. That's crazy. It's crazy in anybody's viewpoint, right? But probably our own attorney could tell us that it's probably crazy. But we don't have anything better. So I'm not asking the board to run out today and survey all the roads, but maybe we get a database of what roads are surveyed and what ones aren't, compile like a database in roads, whether it's available to have, it doesn't matter, but the town should have a drawing that shows here's where the roads are, here's all the properties, here's where the houses are. Everything should be surveyed. And maybe it's a multi-year project done over years, right? So you don't have to go out and spend the money right away. But essentially, I think we kind of lost important language when we revised it a year ago. And this right here puts it back in while still enabling, we're still going to keep the houses back, which I think was the primary goal of that, right? We're not going to have houses built on top of the road. For over 60 years, the town of Blue River spaced improvements off the access road easements. And I think these two projects that triggered this are really much less prevalent than we think. And again, only that town survey is going to tell us that. So, I'd love to see us do that. In talking with the attorney last week, I learned that there's 4 reasons for setbacks. There may be others, but he gave me 4: safety, aesthetics, light, and air, right? So the way the code is currently written, we believe that lots of properties without a town road easement situated on them will be enabled to effectively move forward 15 feet, right? So instead of being set back like everybody theoretically should have been, if the road's not on their property, they get to move forward, whereas the folks on the other side are held back. It's not necessarily an issue of equity, right? It's not about what's equitable, but what is the more stringent? So no matter what we do, we're going to do variance process. And we have a process through area variance, to look at this. So, if you had a house that was built, for example, 1980, and you stayed back off the property line 40 feet, assuming the road would be here, but it didn't get built there. Let's use 1965, it's better. So the road got built in 66, who knows? The road's sitting on your property, you got a house 40 feet back. You want to do an improvement? You can, without a variance. I'm not saying you don't need one, but the guy on the other side of the street, who maybe sits already too close, theoretically, he doesn't need that variance. So regardless of what we do, we're going to have a variance. And maybe what we do is create like a streamline, like 0 fee, and this is not my idea, it's the attorney's, a 0 fee variance process. However, I would advise that we do make that like just a cursory administrative review. I'm not saying we run them through the ringer, but we get eyes on it. The town of Blue River doesn't have different criteria for different projects. There's not like a class A, a class B, or class 1, 3, 4, whatever. We just have a review. It's either a standard review, and when it comes to you guys, it's either a resolution or an ordinance. We don't, in P and Z, we just review. And it's cursory, and it should be. However, we still want to get that number of eyes on those projects. So we can look at it, see, does it fit? People want to move forward, maybe there's good reason. Maybe there's wetlands behind them, they have no other way to get it done. But to just arbitrarily say, here's the road, you win, you lose, I think that just potentially creates density issues, right? Because you're gonna have neighborhoods with existing homes. I don't know how they're set, and I've drawn up examples, but I drew them by hand. You got a bunch of houses too close, now you're gonna push one away. Is there a benefit? You got a bunch of houses, too far away, and suddenly you're gonna let them get closer. They're all gonna move closer as we approach this situation where people are scraping. So if we're not in favor of density, just blindly, where we feel crowded in our neighborhoods, we might want to stick with what we did for over 60 years and still incorporate the meat and potatoes of the language of 2025-02, which this does. It's going to hold them back off of those existing roads. I'm going to try to keep it brief here. If you look at these revisions, and I don't know, I'm going to pull them up. The first one is the setback definition, right? So the way our code wrote is it just set back off of the edge of any town road easement held or maintained by the town of Blue River, or the edge of a public. I've struck here, which you guys, any right-of-way, road access, road easement, and pedestrian easements, unless a different distance is established by a site plan, and it goes on to say, etc. Essentially, my revision just ties in. We're going to set it off of any access road or road access easement, and we probably need to touch the definition of that, and we'll probably have the attorney do that if you guys are interested. 16B 420. Setbacks are a specified distance measured from either A, the front, rear, and side of the property line that defines the boundaries of the lot, or B, the boundary of a town road easement, held or maintained by the town of Blue River. This red language is what I've added. Or C, the boundary of any recorded public. And we had private right-of-way, road easement, or access and road easement. We want to touch it up because I was talking to one of the planning and zoning over the weekend. And then talking to Attorney Widener, when we had the word just access easement, there was a concern about what that might mean. And talking to planning, we probably want to go back and talk a little more. Well, we don't want to set back people off of private driveways, right? That's not the goal here. It's to set them back off of the access road easements as well as where the town sits, the town road easement. 16B 430B3. This really is minor, but originally we had said as to not interfere with the existing or future use within the road easement, or the access secured by the easement. Again, we got to sit with the attorney if the board is interested in making any revision. We'll work with him to try to accomplish our goal. Our goal is to set him back as far as we always have, and not allow anybody to just arbitrarily put a house right on the side of the road where there's nowhere to push back snow. I mean, I know a couple of the folks that sit on this board are acutely aware of the specific project on Wilderness. And it's shocking. But even after that project, we had the same situation occur on Gray Squirrel right around the corner. We got a house sitting right on the street. And that, I don't blame the board for wanting to solve that problem. I don't blame staff's desire to solve that problem prior. But in doing so, we've made an error in allowing other properties to move forward. All right, so I'm rambling a little bit, but under 15B, 16B 450, excuse me. I'm not, a lot of this language, we get into, although front, side, and rear setbacks established by a zone district are typically measured from the lot lines of the property. This is what I suggest we revise it to: when any town road easement held or maintained by the town of Blue River or access road easement encroaches into a lot, setback established and regulated by the land use code shall be measured as the closer of the lot line or the edge of any easement as outlined in the definition of setback in section 16.320. I don't know that we even got to get into all that. I think by just literally saying the lot setbacks imposed by the applicable zone district, see chapter 16A zoning, says it all. It's 25 feet, and the definition of setback says it should be measured from, it should say, from the edge of any town road easement or access road easement. That's a lot, try to get it done pretty quick, although talk a little slower than usual. But if this is of any interest to the board, with authorization, we would ask that we can go back with the town attorney and make these changes, and then he'd bring it forward to you all to adopt it. It's not an emergency, though. If you decide to do it and you like it and you prefer to stick with how the building official has been interpreting the code, you might want to just say pending ordinance, so that anything that comes before us is measured how Kyle's been measuring it. But that's up to you. Also, another action item, I would love to see you guys allocate some funds annually to survey these roads, to find out where they are, so we're not blindly referencing Google Earth. Because that to me is mind-boggling, really. Although I'll agree, it's the best we got, but it's not appropriate. And we would also look to, we'll finalize that revision, bring it back in front of you guys, and you can decide with it what you may, right? So, this is just a work session. Does anybody have any questions? I might be talking to myself. I talk too much. Anybody? Does this make sense to anyone?
Dan, I appreciate your doing this. I'm a person that works well off of illustrations. I have a hard time with interpretation of words.
Sure.
And what it means. So when we did this first ordinance, or the last ordinance, Bob put together, or somebody put together illustrations to help us understand the different options.
Let me ask you a question. Do you know, John, do we still have any of those whiteboards, or do we have a whiteboard and I can just sketch up a couple of examples?
We do have a whiteboard.
It can be blank, but could I have it? If you guys have time. It's 5:30, I can probably.
I didn't know if it was a
18
tonight
minutes.
thing or when we go to discuss it again or.
We could, but I think it would be beneficial maybe quickly. We can just draw up, a couple, right? While we wait on that, does anybody have anything else? Does this make sense?
Oh, yeah, I just I don't have a question, Dan, and I
Yeah.
appreciate all the work you put into this. This is great, and also the other members of the commission as well. In whole, I'm supportive of this update. It makes sense to me. It's in line with previous intents of the board to bring clarity to the code and accomplish our mission of trying to, match development with the vision of the town. So, I just want to express my support for this and my gratitude.
Right on.
All
Thank
the
you.
work there. Thank you.
Anybody else? Ben, you came in a little bit late, but essentially we're just kind of talking about those setbacks, and we've got some language in front of you. It's not final, obviously, but if there's any interest in the board, we're asking if we could use resources to borrow the town attorney to kind of put pen to paper to try to tighten this up and achieve the goal. And the goal is not to undermine what you did a year ago, but to basically, we're trying to maintain the code that we had for over 60 years, while also bolstering it and supporting everything you did adopt in the fact that, town road easement is the existing road. We don't there's no arguing that. And we're gonna make sure that houses don't fall right on that road. But in the case of a house that was built 40 feet back from property line, but the road sits entirely on the property, we're not trying to push them further back. We're not trying to let the other side of the street come forward. Regardless of what we do, we're looking at an area variance here for one or the other. And so what we think should happen is maybe more area variances where they're potentially, and with the help of the attorney, some sort of streamlined process where it's like maybe a 0 fee or a low fee, so a simplified variance, but not a slam dunk, not just a administrative review that, staff just says, yeah, okay. We still would like to have planning and zoning's eyes on those. And because we don't have like classifications of review, like we can't say, oh, well, this is a class 4 review, automatically go to planning and zoning. We don't have that. We want to make sure that we do get some eyes on projects, right? We don't get to talk about them. We don't talk about setbacks unless there's an issue with setbacks. And in my opinion, in P and Z's opinion, the way we left the code a year ago, it undermined what we'd always done while establishing town road easement. We keep the town road easement, but we fall back and support Kyle's interpretation that says, hey, you gotta either measure off the closer of town road easement, town road easement, or access road easement. And while we're waiting on John, just so a little more clarification, so private driveways, right? I don't know how many situations we got, but Chris here lives on a private driveway that accesses 3 houses, possibly 4. We're not trying to set these setbacks off driveways, right? But we would obviously need to talk with the attorney because I don't think any of us is versed enough in knowing, like we can look at the definition of right of way, we can look at the definition of access road easement, town road easement. But I don't think we really, when we talk about private and public rights of way, I don't know if a private right of way would be construed as a private driveway. So this is not part of what I sent you. But this is, after talking with Chris, we're like, yeah, that's not the goal here. And I don't know how many instances we have in the town. And I've got, some language that I think solves that. But again, we would ask if we walk away from this and you guys are like, yeah, let's do something. We'd love to have the attorney present so that we can work with him and get this correct, one time. Obviously, y'all can tweak it. It's really up to you all. So, I don't have a grease board, but as I this is real country. This was for myself. But if this is your property line, and let's say this is lot 1 and this is lot 2.
For your honor. What? For this commentary. Go ahead.
This is property line. This lot here measures just off property line currently in the code, which was never the case. It would have been set back 15 plus 25. This guy, we don't know what this distance is. This is the road. Not a road, because we don't have the road surveyed. We don't know which road. But let's just say that this is 14 feet, this area without a road, and the road is 25. 25 plus 14 is 39, plus the 25-foot setback. That's 64 feet setback on this property, 25 on that. It's not appropriate. It's never been done that way until now. Were we able to find anything?
I found that we don't have a whiteboard.
Ask them.
But
Do
we
you
have
guys,
white
do you
paper.
want a couple pictures or have we?
Maybe didn't
Where are
send
we at?
anybody else's picture.
Yeah, and I don't, the attorney talked about pictures. I know how to use AutoCAD. I didn't use AutoCAD. I did type this.
I want to get to a place, Dan, where P and Z and the architects that are bringing plans in are kind of on the same page and understand what our goals are.
Well, what are our goals, I guess? Our goals is to set them back and make sure they're not building on top of the existing road, right? I think what we had was appropriate. But also in the case potentially of where a house, maybe that road was crazy, maybe nothing was built right. We don't want them sitting on the road. So we want to push them back. I think this will accomplish that with the help of Attorney Widener. But is there support to do that? And can we go away from here doing that? Or is there more questions? Mr. Hampton?
I agree.
I agree with you. I think
And
you guys
get them off the road.
yeah, keep them off the road, I think was the goal of this whole thing in the first place.
Hey, Jody?
Yeah. Sorry, yes.
Ted? Ben?
I do. I always worry a little bit about the winners and losers in that, right? When the road was put in the wrong place, which is what happens, right? The roads have moved or were never put in the right place. The one property owner does win and the other property owner does lose. And I understand that we're not granting them the win on the other side. We're only granting the loss on the short side. Right? We're not letting them extend, because we had an architect ask that, right? Could they extend into that if the road easement is that much further? And I agree with not giving them the win on the other side, but I am concerned when we take something away, right? Because of something that, you know, if they bought that piece of property and it's platted and it says this is this and this is our easements, you know, without physically inspecting it themselves, that road is off. I feel for that property owner who loses that right because the road is in the wrong place. And I understand that the town has scripted right through that road once they've maintained it. I understand that completely. I feel for the property owner who is losing because the road is in the wrong spot, right? They gave their 25 front setback plus because the road is in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So I do
Worse than that. Let's say they built, like, I think maybe before you walked in 1965, they built that house. And they set it back 40 feet from the property line. 15 of the road, 25 on the front. The road falls entirely on their property by any number of feet. But let's use 10. So the road is off the property line. Here's the property line. 10 feet in. That's where the edge of the road starts. And the road is, let's just say 20 feet wide. So 20 plus 10 is 30. Now we're going 25. We're 55 back instead of the 40. So he's got a house that's been sitting there since 65. And he wants to do an improvement. He can't because he can no longer meet setback. Process isn't going to solve it. What it's going to, and it's talking to the attorney. This isn't about equity. It's not about fairness necessarily. It's just, it's an equal process, hopefully, in that regardless of what we do, we're going to have area variances, meaning we can't meet a setback. And it's not just a blind stamp saying, well, yeah, you're good because you don't have a road on your property. Good, go. But here, on all projects that can't meet it, we're going to get a look at it. We can say, none of these houses, right? Like the road's probably never going to move. You know,
Right,
it's
right.
probably not.
Yeah.
So if every house sits in a certain way, we're probably going to say, you know what? It's okay. Whether you're too close or too far back, it's just the goal. I thought the goal was we don't want them sitting on the road. We don't want to build
We don't want that
right up on the house. Right?
I know exactly.
The house right on the road. But I would be shocked if we could use a little staff time and we could dig. I mean, I could probably find it, but I haven't spent that time. I guarantee if we did a postmortem on gray squirrel and wilderness, we would find that what we were told is not necessarily fact, right? I don't believe that either of those houses ever were 40 feet back. That 40 feet doesn't exist. That's water across from gray squirrel. I'm not saying they didn't need a variance, but what I am saying is they didn't ask for one and they got it anyway. So we have processes in the town. Our land use code defines them, and I think we should be utilizing them to the full extent. I'm not trying to drum up work for P&Z or the board or the attorney, but we want to make sure that we try from the time we adopted that land use code in June of 2023. From that point forward, we really want to try to do it as correctly as possible, and any amendment we make, thereafter, I want to try to do them right. So I think this does that. And if you guys are willing, we'd love to have the opportunity. I don't know that we'll have it back next month. April is during spring break, your meeting. So I don't know that I'd be here, although if we can dial it with Bob and he's comfortable bringing it forth, he can certainly do it. He doesn't need me here. I do want to just kind of kick it to Chris. He's the one who kind of identified the private driveway, and it kind of dovetailed onto what Bob told me when I spoke to him last week, is that we really want to be careful. We're talking about platted access road easements. and town road easement. We're not talking about private driveways, and we don't know what the meaning of private right-of-way means. So we do need to dig a little closer into that and find out, because we're not trying to set back off the driveways. If you got a house or a driveway like off Highway 9 that accesses 2 or 3, we're not trying to set back off of those. That's not the goal here. It's coming off front setbacks, off of quote unquote roads. Does that make sense? I talked longer than I thought. I think I talked for 30 minutes. I apologize, but I appreciate y'all. I do.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dan.
Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Sorry,
I
that's
think,
the first 25.
unless
Sorry.
anybody else.
I just have, I appreciate what you said, Ben, about that, and as a homeowner, it's not just one road entirely within the property line, but 2 roads and intersection that it creates. I appreciate the sensitivity to the taking that might represent. There's also opportunities for relief for me. Like, should I choose to expand my home, I will come to the P and Z, spoiler alert, for some kind of variance, right, and explain the hardship that I'm enduring, and ask for some kind of variance, probably on the other side of the property. But I think that everybody has.
Well, Dan brought it up. I'll just jump up real quick. Chris Carlson also on P and Z. Essentially, he pretty much said it in many words. But what we're trying to do is not restrict that property that is a loser. There's an example that came up recently where the road should have gone straight up on the property line and turned to 90 degrees on his other property line. Well, the road curves and cuts off the corner of his property. Like an example like that, that's going to the end of the road, like there is no detriment of him building closer to the road in that instance, but just forcing them to go through a variance so that we are, it's not about, equity necessarily, but equal opportunity. So that person, he has the opportunity to apply for the variance, shows that like, hey, he has a unique situation. And we can look at that case by case. Versus just like on the opposite side where like the road should have been splitting the property. It's not on the guy's property at all. Hey, cool! I get extra room. I get a larger buildable lot. A lot of these lots are 1/3 of an acre, 4/10 of an acre, so they're already restricted. So I mean that's the main thing. Like we're not trying to create winners and losers, but just want it to go through, everybody has the equal opportunity, but they have to go through some sort of review process before it's just, because a lot of this does come down to, the town requires the applicant to provide the information, and if the applicant is not truthful in supplying that information, Kyle then looks at it, doesn't see any red flags. He's not necessarily going to the GIS, looking at the plot, looking at where the road should have been, where the road is. GIS is wildly inaccurate, as most of us know, and it shows homes, on the edge of the boundary, etc. So it's just trying to trip that further review to where Kyle isn't just like, oh yeah, everything looks good because they presented information. Probably the wilderness and the gray squirrel examples we keep bringing up. They probably provided, information that, showed it was okay. And it was probably not necessarily truthful. Had was defined as an access easement, bisects my property in half. That accesses lot 16, lot 14. It goes down to the access road easement, which was platted in the 60s, Blue Rock Springs. So that's established. The setbacks there, we're not questioning that, but this is my private driveway. And if I were to force the setback 25 feet off of my private driveway that accesses 2 other lots, I have no land. Because when they, it was originally all owned by one company, they didn't care where the driveway was. There was no setbacks. But now that would create a burden. If I were to ever want to expand or whatever, I'd be forced to move the driveway, et cetera. So we want to make sure when we're working with Bob that we, have, define access road easement, this public road right of way, town road easement, this public access stuff versus a private driveway. And there's, I'm a unique lot for sure. I'm sure there's some others that, one driveway accesses two lots. You don't wanna, whoever is hosting that driveway, they're already burdened by the driveway. You don't wanna also like, they should be able to build right up to the driveway. It's a private driveway. There's should be no setback there. So that's just one thing that Dan and I have talked about, that want to be careful when we do rewrite language and adopt new language that we're also, not lump it in, another unintended, issue. So, that's all I got.
When when they come forward with an application, I'm sure they're showing the lot lines setbacks as they are on a plat. Are they also required, I think we discussed this in our other meeting, that they actually show the actual road
Yes.
to help you to determine where
Yes.
that is? Well,
Which, they also, there are many examples where when they do a survey of their lot, that surveyor is he can see the road. So he can mark the road, he can draw that into the survey, and hopefully they're having the professional survey done and not just drawing something that is an estimation. But they don't necessarily know where that road was platted. So one of the reasons of adopting the language of town road easement, where the road actually exists. But what we're trying to do is we don't want to disregard the access road easement as platted in the subdivision, because maybe the town does want to move the road in the future and put it back to where it should have been. Or maybe that's valuable snow storage. We don't want to, it would make no sense for the town to give up the
Right.
platted road.
But don't you think it would be beneficial to have all three
Yes,
noted for
yes.
the P and Z?
Certainly, and
Yes,
that's
and a
gonna, and it would be great to, put the onus on the applicant to also do the research of where the road was platted, which I don't think is necessarily happening right now. So we might see where the actual road is, but oftentimes Dan will bring up the subdivision plat when we're in P and Z, looking on the computer and just doing this visual comparisons, very inaccurate, but like, hey, so the road's here, but the easement, looks like the road's on your neighbor's property more than yours, and so that the access road would have been on your property line. It would be very helpful if we also required the applicant to show the platted access road easements as well as existing road and differentiate that.
I was on P and Z, I want to see that,
Yeah.
and I would think that because of the road situation that we're talking
Yeah.
about, there's gonna be a lot of opportunity where a variance may make sense. I mean, a lot of it's just gonna be down to common sense. What
Exactly.
makes sense when you guys so when the architect's sitting, the client, and you guys making the argument, why should I be able to move closer to the road or not, or
Yeah.
to try to prevent this winner loser situation.
Yeah, and I mean, this goes back to, showing the access road easements, also how, we went through this, in the revision too, to also acknowledge the river easement that was platted in the subdivisions back in the 60s, and acknowledging that river easement, recognizing that river easement, so that they're not building out into our view corridor, but requiring that being shown, which, it may just be a little extra step for the surveyor and or architect, but making that clear that they need to show both.
It's not necessarily a requirement now, is it?
I don't think it's necessarily.
Our site plans should require any and all
But
easements,
they-
but I don't know that we always see them.
Exactly.
I'm just thinking that.
And if we
might-
don't do the,
Yeah, we don't always see.
yeah,
So
if
I don't
we
think that
don't
would
do,
be
if we don't do
beneficial,
the
if we're gonna
legwork.
change something that the survey is required in a review
I think-
process, showing everything.
I believe it is, and I'm not saying anything has not been truthful. I don't know that, because we only use two projects for discussion purposes. Wilderness Grace Corner, Red-Headed Step Children. Without looking at them, we don't know if they were even a problem. So I don't wanna delve down the,
But it would
rabbit
just,
hole.
now that, we're almost built out, but we're gonna have a lot of people coming in for remodels.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, not only
Because we got
remodel,
the, right?
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rebuild.
or we gotta kind of wrap this we're at the end of our work.
I'd like it to be also that it's required.
Yeah, it would be nice if the building, official would, see that it's not illustrated on the site plans during his review and go back to them before he even gets to us. Like, hey, you don't have this showing, and just try to, dig in, look at the site plan. Hey, I think you have an access road easement on the property. You need to show that, which we're not always seeing. So,
Thank you.
Thank you,
that.
thanks.
All right. So I think we have one more thing on the agenda. Do we need to have this in the work session? Because why are we looking at the approving the?
We could discuss it.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's start the actual meeting.
I guess one caveat is technically the agenda shows the minutes as dated in January, they are February. So I just need to state that before.
I know where it is.
So-
I just noticed that.
Yep.
All right, I move to approve the constant agenda.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right.
It also includes the financial report.
Everybody do it.
Yeah, we can do it as one.
Okay, yeah, I move to approve the financial report. All in favor? Aye, perfect. Sweet. Communications to boards of trustees. Anyone got public comments? How's it going?
Good, thanks. Chris Nally of Lakeshore Loop. My only reason for coming down here tonight is to thank this board as it enters another transition. For substantially changing the tenor of the relationship between the board, the staff, and the community. It has been felt by more people than me. So I want to thank him for that. And as you mentioned, this transition, I want to thank Noah for his service. And thank those who are sticking around for the next board. So I deeply appreciate that. Also, welcome Chad to the community and his first job as a city administrator. I think it's a career path that I think is going to be you're going to learn a lot, and I think you're going to enjoy it. I'd be remiss though if I didn't come down and tell you the state of Lakeshore, the Lakeshore residency as it stands today. When I first started coming down here, maybe a year and a half ago, I ended with throwing out a metric of the ratio between owner occupiers and resident renters versus short-term renters. When I first came here, it was about for every one of us, if I can call us us, there was 1.3 of them. Unfortunately, the number has been shifting dramatically in this favor. And as of today, as of right now, there are 3 short-term renters for every 1 owner occupier in the Lakeshore subdivision. So I think the ship has sailed for our subdivision. And I hope we're not the canary in the coal mine for the rest of the community. But it is certainly not an R1, a single family residential community. And looking over at P&Z, it may be time for them to consider what does this really look like as short-term renters, as this commercial endeavors with all the infrastructure pressure they put on the town. And the chief was good enough to put a traffic monitor out there and was amazed at the amount of traffic that goes through Lakeshore Loop. What does that mean for long-term land use? Because I think there is an impact there. But again, that's not why I'm here. I want to thank Noah. I want to thank this board for the change in tone and tenor to the community. It has been impactful. So thank you, Chief, for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. All right.
Several of you may know me. My name is Whit. Tonight I'm here from Summit County Rescue Group, and I would like to present this plaque as a thank you for your donations to our new building that we're now in.
Oh, thank you very much.
Pass it around, let me see.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right.
That's it. I can go on for another 30 minutes. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one. Anybody else? All right.
I'm gonna thank Noah for serving, appreciate you.
Thank you.
And thanks for those who are gonna stick around.
Well, technically I won't serve, so I think we started at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh. We gotta come here one more time.
I will, hearing one more time.
All right. On to new business. Ordinance number 202602. This is about the compensation of the new term for trustees in there. I'm going to open public comment. Did everyone have a chance to read the email comments that we received? One. All right, is there any public comment on this ordinance?
Is this on compensation?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Sir.
Yeah. I think, Ted's been working on this, for quite a while. I think it's, deserved. We all know how much work goes into it. And hey, I'll throw it out as a member of P and Z. What about a bump for P and Z? If we're gonna give a bump to, the trustees as well. I'll end it at that. Not that it'll affect me.
What is the PNC?
$100.
So 150 less than what we're getting, right?
Yeah, 100 a month right now. Trustees are 150 a month, and the mayor's 200 a month. I think is the current breakdown.
I think it's 200, 300, if I'm not mistaken.
Is the proposed?
So it's
No.
150, 300.
150, 300. Yeah. I'm raking it in.
Well, no, one because it's currently 150, right?
Yeah, I don't make 300.
Oh, 150, 300. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
100,
150, 300.
300. Okay, I thought it was 200. Didn't know you're double. Good thing do the work for 2 million.
Yeah, actually, I'm really prepared some.
But just something to consider, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But I fully in support of the trustees getting the bump. It's been long overdue.
If no one else, we also have a written comment come in, from John Warnick. Requesting that we please add a clause requiring each monthly pay contingent upon in-person participation at monthly meeting. And B, to please add a clause allowing each payee to yearly choose, in parentheses, maybe choose during first weeks of January, either $500 per month or 10 US Mint 1 ounce Silver Eagles per month. The default could be the $500 check, so Silver Eagles would be opted. And he also notes that yes, I or someone else could facilitate Silver Eagles. It could do it at an negligible cost to the town. That's it.
That is silver.
It's outpacing inflation, so I think that's his point.
Yeah.
So that's the extent of that.
All right. Well, I will going to close public comment. I actually don't fully disagree with an attendance requirement. I don't know if it needs to be every single month, because obviously there are lives outside of this board, but I do think requiring a minimum is never a bad thing. I think we're gonna touch on that in a minute as far as a different committee that we're having issue with attendance going on. But I don't know if I don't think it needs to be addressed right this minute, but just something that, throw out there that I don't think an attendance requirement, if you're gonna miss 8 meetings a year, that's a lot. So that's my only point there.
I agree.
Anyone else have any thoughts on this? Any concerns? I'm okay with it. As everyone else is okay with it?
I'd ask if, in advance, Bob, would you rather discuss this at this time or in your staff report if you have anything at a later date, later time in the meeting?
Later time in the meeting. Yeah, later. Excuse me, later. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, okay, thank you.
We're good to have it.
Yep. I guess close the public hearing.
I close the public hearing, right?
I'll make an motion to approve the ordinance, 2026-02, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of Blue River, Colorado, setting the compensation for any new term office, the mayor or trustee commencing on or after April 21st, 2026.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right.
I abstain.
Oh, yeah, because you're conflict of interest. You can make more money than me now. All right.
He brings the cookies.
All right. Yeah, you gonna start buying food? Anyway, so let's move on to mayor and trustee reports, which ironically will go back to Ted.
The wildfire council will meet the 25th. They changed from the third Thursday to the fourth Wednesday. They've also changed from 1:30 to 1 o'clock. So next week I'll go to a new wildfire council meeting. The last one was, there was a presentation by a company called Frontline Wildfire Defense. I have the whole slide deck. I took pictures of it. If anyone is interested, please contact me. One of the things of note that struck me, and this company provides exterior sprinklers to protect against embers primarily. There was a blurb. Embers are a big problem with causing fires. You know, they travel a long way, etc. But another striking point to me was that this company provided protection for 61 homes in Los Angeles that were subjected to last year's wildfires in Los Angeles. And of those 61 homes that Frontline protected, 59 survived, which is a 96% effective rate. Shocked me because I didn't think any houses in those places survived at all. But so what they do is they provide sprinklers that like go outside of your house and protect the area around your house. That was pretty interesting. Unfortunately, they didn't provide us with any cost analysis or anything like that, or how it would affect our straws in our aquifer.
Most of them have dedicated tanks.
Yeah.
It's a completely
I think
dedicated
so.
system
Yeah.
to.
And
It's been a month since that meeting, so I don't remember all of the details. But like I said, I have pictures of the entire slide deck if anyone's interested. The next one is next week. Transit board. At the next meeting there, I'm gonna try and pin them down a little bit more about adding bus stops. We still want more bus stops, right?
Bus times, more time.
I already covered that last month. There will be one more route. They got a grant and they're gonna be adding another time during the day. But we still want more bus stops to keep our citizenry safe and reduce the amount of exposure they have walking down the highway because there's not enough bus stops. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Bob.
Thank you, Mayor. Chad, am I missing something? Did we talk about me chiming in on an issue? I don't recall from our many discussions we recently had. Otherwise, I don't have anything.
If you'd like to touch on your staff report at all about the board compensation, but it's already been passed, so it's
Yes.
No,
It's. I was going to mention the need for to, as somebody said, to not vote because they might be impacted in the future, but that's not legally required. It would just be something if somebody felt empowered to not vote. I was going to raise the option for them to do so, but it's not legally required. Otherwise, I have no report, Mayor.
Thank you.
All right. I typed up a manager's report, so y'all are welcome to review this while I talk along on it. At first, what Mayor DeCiso is referring to was had some comment from the last P&Z meeting about the concept of removing Commissioner Watts from the board due to non-attendance. as he has missed the last 5 P&Z meetings and 7 of the last 12. And in accordance with the section 26-50 of the Blue River Municipal Code, a member's failure to attend 3 or more commission meetings during a 12-month period shall be reported to the Board of Trustees by the commission chairperson. That is that email that was in the agenda packet from Tim Johnson related to this removal request. And absences from meeting can constitute grounds for removal. In the event a vacancy occurs, the Board of Trustees shall appoint a successor to fill the vacancy and serve the remainder of the term of the former member. For a simple process of removal, it would require a motion to remove, and that would remove Mr. Watts from the P&Z board. And there's also the space here to appoint a new commissioner for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and this would require a motion to appoint. As a point of matter, Bob, would you be able to clarify whether or not it is required to fill this position at this time, or this is a vacancy is allowed to be at this existing meeting?
With regard to P&Z, there's no urgency to fill the position. There's no legal requirement that you do so in a certain amount of time, unlike vacancies on the Board of Trustees, which the law requires you to act at a certain kind of clip. You don't have to do that for a P&Z. You can wait. You cannot fill the position, or you can fill the position at your leisure.
Okay, thank you. So if you would like to entertain this as an option, you may do a motion to remove Mr. Watts from the P&Z Commission.
I got something.
I think that, yes, we should remove him, number one, and number two, we should put it out in email 2 or 3 times to get applicants again. And
Okay, I would agree with him. Has anybody reached out to Mr. Watts for comment?
I have reached out. He in request for his own resignation. However, he did not respond to me. This matter up to the discretion of the board. So.
Make a motion to remove Mr. Watts from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then, yeah, I think that if we could put it out in the newsletter.
Okay.
To get some applications, I think that's important.
Absolutely. Moving on to the next item, wanted to just bring to the board's attention that there is a potential open space acquisition opportunity in the leap year subdivision. And this was an update in the conversation I had with Summit County and Breckenridge with their open space groups. They are preliminary, very preliminary considerations regarding the acquisition of a parcel in the leap year subdivision, the Evolve family. No price point has yet been identified as the initial offering. The Breckenridge Open Space Advisory Commission and Summit County Open Space Advisory Council will likely address the topic in upcoming meetings. Staff from both governments have reached out to ask the town's interest in partnering and acquiring this parcel. They've also made a note that the town has the option to acquire a stake in this parcel following their acquisition, and their acquisition does not preclude the town from such an acquisition stake. In terms of characteristics, needs to be the exact page I put that on. It would be 48 and 49, so right at near the end of the agenda packet. There is the particular location with the leap year parcel from the Summit County Assessor's Office, as well as detail regarding the parcel. It is 5.78 acres, borders Highway 9 and Conifer, and is zone transitional. And the intent that was stated from Summit County and Breckenridge regarding this very preliminary consideration of acquisition is to lay out the possibility of an open space designation with a connector spur to the Spruce Creek Trail, which would potentially lessen the impact of usage to residents along that Spruce Creek Road. So that is just to bring your attention to the matter. I will update the board if any progress is made or if there's any other further discussions on the matter.
I mean, the biggest problem is the Forest Service won't let you do anything, so no chance to allow access. It's private property, jobs across the
All right. You want to answer?
Please, yeah, any questions, please let me know on this one as well. I'll get more information. Turning to the February financial report, reports showing a healthy ending fund balance and asset to liability ratios, both positives. General fund revenues are tracking in a favorable trajectory over the first 2 months of the year. This is only a snapshot, however, and it's such an early stage in the year that has to be taken with a major grain of salt. Expenses are lower than anticipated in most major categories, and the town had an operating surplus for the general fund for the month of February. There are the sub funds have also shown an increase for capital, broadband, and conservation trust in terms of their ending fund balance. And the American Rescue Plan is still on track to be spent out by the end of fiscal year 2026, as these funds expire and can no longer be used by the town capital. Yeah. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take that questions now. Otherwise, I'll move on to there is very preliminary discussions amongst the Summit County municipalities to do something at a unified front in putting together wildfire restrictions that may potentially be in advance of the Summit County fire restrictions due to the aggressive nature of wildfire potential this upcoming fire season. I'll let you know as I receive more information on that matter. The town, as a statutory municipality, and generally adheres to Summit County fire restrictions that are set in the past. Another reminder, we are transitioning to ADP, and the March 20th paycheck will be sent out is being sent out via ADP. If you did not provide direct deposit information, individual staff, trustees, or commissioners will be receiving a paper check in lieu of direct deposit. However, I can always provide that information and get that back on track shortly. Last item I wanted to touch on is a reminder of certain things related to short-term rentals going forward. In Ordinance 2025-09 requires a maximum of 2 listed occupants per bedroom plus 2 additional guests. Have been receiving some issues related to Airbnb and Vrbo listings in excess of that limit. The town does reserve the right to determine occupancy and bedroom count listed on any STR license based on either town building records, bedrooms authorized by utility providers, and this may also include septic capacity, and or physical inspection of the property by our code enforcement officer, WIT. And all STR listings must properly display bedroom count as listed on their license, subsequent maximum occupancy, due bedroom count plus 2 or septic capacity, the STR license issued by the town, and a statement at some point that there is a maximum of 5 vehicles allowed in outdoor parking. And that's a common one that is easy to overlook in that generation of listing, has been an issue. And it is technically a violation of town ordinance to operate an STR without a proper license. Such action is subsequent to a notice of violation and eventual suspension or revocation of future STR license. It is also a violation to list an STR with an incorrect or missing information, and potentially may lead to suspension of STR license. We are still working through all our processes, but I just wanted to bump all that information back up there just for the public to be made aware of those various requirements within the ordinance. So that's all I got. Please let me, yeah, please.
Yeah, a question on the STR.
Yes.
Situation that you have to do with enforcement. Are we also talking about a mechanism to enforce violations? Are we going to have the sheriff, the chief in his department do it? Are we going to get a new ambassador that we once have to start looking into this stuff? And who's going to be taking care of monitoring this and enforcing it?
Thank you. At the current time, WIT is enforcing this existing issue, as well as John and I are reviewing licenses and applications against notice of violation. So we do the administrative work, and the boots on the ground and inspections and such is WIT's jurisdiction. We are still looking to understand the full scope of how encompassing this implementation process will be. And we'll hopefully have some more concrete information within the next few months regarding what that's going to look like, especially with this substantial change from ordinance 2025-09 impacting town residents and owners.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Chief?
The tarn use is coming up, right, in May or something?
I was actually gonna bring that up. Another business about when is there a requirement of when we're allowed to start using it again? As far as like parking and everything, because I know it's not maintained. And I fear that it may be melted out somewhat earlier than normal. Yeah, so I didn't know if that was something we needed to be concerned about blocking for the time being, or.
Those are all great questions. The liability of all that, who's maintaining it, who, the access. People have been out ice fishing, well, when there was.
Hopefully not now.
Those are all things I'd like to later discuss or get farther into, but initially to help our department do our job, I think the number one concern with the tarn use is the trespassers, people who aren't residents accessing the tarn. And my proposal was to do the hang tags or something that are vehicle tags. So that makes our job a lot easier. If you've got a tag that's inspectable while you're down there, I'm good to go. I don't have to come back and look you up in some database to figure out if you're an actual resident or if you're a short-term renter or whatever the situation might be. You have the tag that proves that you should be there, and that simplifies our job greatly. So I'd like to put that on your guys' agenda. Is that something that you want to implement moving forward?
Yes, I would say definitely. I think it makes it easier for you guys to enforce and actually like reasonable for you
We've got
guys.
stickers for the back window, but I think a hang tag equally is good.
So my understanding, is it that residents only, or can short-term rental guests
No,
also?
they
cannot.
So the
Must be
hang
a resident.
tag creates a problem.
How so?
And you short-term rent your house and you just have it hanging by the door.
But we can associate it with a license plate number too.
I think it's a good start, though. In mind, I agree, it's not perfect by any means, but to give them a tool.
Well, we need to let short-term rental owners know that if you give your hang tag to your short-term rental people.
Yeah, that's like, that's probably gonna be like, yeah.
Have a little
I
bit
mean,
of
I think there's a lot of room for, I mean, I know people that live in the county who are proud of the fact that they have friends that give them their permit or whatever it is, time to go down to the tarn. They don't even live in.
There's plenty of tarn poaching going on. That's what we're trying to
Yeah, there's true. I think that I would take the recommendation since you were having to enforce it, chief, if anyone is super opposed. If he wants to use name tags to start, let's give, like, if he's, that's.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea that each tag is assigned to a vehicle and the household can have however many. They can apply for it. And if, as long as it kind of a statement that they are utilizing it the way they're supposed to be, meaning they're either the owner of the property, or if it is a long-term owner, that the owner has transferred their rights to that person, but the short-term. So like whatever the rules are about who can be there, they're abiding by those. The tag is specific to the vehicle. It's not transferable, but they can have multiple if they have multiple vehicles. I like the idea of the tag just personally, because if you don't want it displayed at all times that you're a Tarn or Blue River person, you can just stick it in your glove box or whatever. So just pull it out, have it available if you're there. If I show up and there's a car that doesn't have it, I'll start my investigation and figure out what's going on from that point. And maybe that's just education. It is somebody who lives here and say, hey, you need to get your tag.
You need to come into town.
So, Chief, do you think it would be beneficial if you're gonna leave the tag, the license plate number of the vehicle be on those tags?
Yeah, that's enough. So the tag itself has a serial number, and then you get as simple as having a Sharpie, but have a plate right there.
Which would eliminate a lot of the other stuff going on.
Yeah,
You
you're
have
not
to
gonna
be associated with that car.
exactly.
Okay.
And then whoever applied, and then we can backtrack from serial number and plate to who it belongs to and do that. And if some fraud is happening or something like that, it gives us a means to investigate that as well.
I would like, can we, motion, I think it's important we actually kind of fast track this.
that's
Due to weather requirements again, like usually I'd say we have till June, but.
Can we do paper rather than classes? No.
We can do whatever you guys want.
Just to keep the expense down?
Well, my intent was like my Brex card, the plastic version, I just keep it every year paying for it and I maintain the same car. I kind of have that envisioned for Blue River. And once you get a card, like that's your card until you either move or lose it or break it or whatever it is. And you can just keep renewing it year after year.
Yeah, I think I mean.
But I mean, it's whatever you want. I just want to enforce the idea that I want something that I can go down there and inspect it. Because right now, if there's 5 cars down there, I literally have to go through and start asking all of you, do you live here? Do you live here? You know, and start proving up how that is, other than just.
I like the fact that you can't make a paper one, you can make a photocopy of, as someone who has a Beaver Creek sticker, if you get past the gates, you have to have a sticker, not get stopped. All of our kids that work at the Beaver Creek stop took them to a store and had them made. So they all have fake ones now. So they all can get past the gates without being harassed. So I like this is a harder thing to fake, I think, as a hang tag than anything else. In my humble opinion. You can print one out on a piece of paper, it's pretty easy.
If we get plastic ones, they just have a color Blue River tarn on it, and then there's like a place to mark the owner's name.
Whatever, I think.
Do you have the demo?
License plate, it'd be more.
Yeah, I think it needs to be kind of, as I said, fast track you to current.
I created somewhere at some point, I created a demo that has the Blue River logo on it. It has a serial number and then it said plate. And then that's where the individual would write in that actual plate. Or actually, if they apply to it, we could have John and his great calligraphy write in the number for us. And then we send it off to them. So then we're verifying that that's the right stuff.
Not one, so you guys can have that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the idea. It's a prototype. It doesn't have to be that, but.
Stopping like one thing. Right. I love it. That works okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think we should look at how that's just basically writing up a program. Do we need to do any kind of like voting on that? Do we like
Ordinance or something about it?
do we have to go? Okay. All right.
No, if you're just giving administrative direction to follow up on the idea, you don't need a motion.
Yes, I think it's important we follow up on that. Get those.
And then go start a newsletter, right?
Yeah, I would say we should start to use the information now. And at some point, we may want to post some stuff at the actual barn itself.
How many do we?
Permit like required, things like that.
Yeah, it's like, and then having us, basically being like, hey, new program, you need to have this when you visit town hall.
What do we do with 200?
Was signage,
1,000,
signage was on the old
500 minimum.
contract, right? I thought
500
that
minimum.
we weren't allowed to do signage, I thought before,
I said 1,000 because they often
down at the time.
tier
Is
that
that
pricing.
pricing? I
We have
thought
some different colors there.
that we could do signage, so maybe that was in the old couple of.
And it's not our use agreements. May?
Yeah.
Alright.
So, what? We have a little bit of a
Okay.
And so that needs to be renewed for another year, right?
Well,
Ideally, we
term,
could
the
get a
term
long
we're able to settle.
Right.
Yeah.
And who's working on that?
Heckman.
I need to know what I need to work.
Yes. Well, we will. Okay.
Perfect. Anything else, Chief?
That's all, thank you. Unless you guys
Oh,
have
Chief,
any-
I had a quick question.
Yes.
What's a motorist assist?
So it's a vehicle that's just stopped on the side of the road for some reason. And we're helping them get along. Sometimes it was slide off, sometimes it's just
pictures.
moose pictures. Well, those are, they get yelled at to just keep
assisting a
moving.
motorist.
No, it's a vehicle possibly in distress, and we're stopping in to check with them. Why are they there? They're not really supposed to be there. They might be a safety.
Keep yelling at the moose picture, people, please.
Would you just share a little bit about the road closure from last week, from Wednesday?
Yeah, so it's a family that owns a house in our town. A troubled history of criminal history. There's one person, I know that there's this case out of Denver that's been building. This suspect in particular had moved back to the East Coast, and we kind of thought that this kind of resolved our concern with it. We recently were contacted by a Lakewood detective who said that the phone was pinging to our area, so we began surveillance. And then as things progressed, we were able to verify that the suspect, who does have a felony warrant, 2 different charges associated with this homicide out of Denver, was in the area. And then I worked with, now I'm going to talk about this later, not really tonight, but we worked with the municipal emergency response team. And they're the ones that have the upper armored vehicles and the drones and the dogs and all the fun toys, and called them in to assist. A fugitive team from Lakewood came up to retrieve this individual once we got him. And we took it from there. I don't want to talk too much about our tactics and stuff like that, though, but this person was identified to be in our area, and we went and got him. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. You're welcome.
All right. Any other matters that need to be brought in front of the board? I move to adjourn this meeting.
I have to stay and actually play fun.
I'll second.
Punishment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.